Welcome to Talk to Me. I'm your host, Brenda Warren, the Soulutionist. And I have a guest today that I've really been excited to talk to. My guest, Mr. Jason Holzer, grew up in Taos, Missouri. He was raised in a town with a loving family and gave him every opportunity to succeed. He was supported and loved. But at 17, an unexpected event on May 8th in 2003 would change his life, his mother's life, and his sister's life forever when his father passed away due to suicide. Through hard work and dedication and a strong faith in God, excuse me, he is now a certified teacher, a thought coach, an accomplished basketball coach, an elite skills trainer, an Amazon best-selling author, a post-traumatic growth storyteller, and co-founder of the 4D Athletes. He started the hashtag Act to Impact and gives life a chance to get better. Jason, welcome to the show.
Brenda, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on here, and I love your title, The Soulutionist. That's a very nice play on words. I love that. So thank you again for having me on.
Thank you. Jason, suicide affects many families, and unfortunately, it's something that we don't talk about enough so that the people that it does affect can find healing on the other side, or at least a sense that they're not alone. And I'm not sure if you're aware that I am a suicide survivor. I've struggled with suicide thoughts for many years. And I recently had a really bad encounter with that. And thank God I was able to get the help and support. And I'm currently in counseling. And I'd like you to tell us, when all of this happened, Jason, how were you able to find that peace that brought you to where you are right now? If you'd like to talk, I want to give you the time to really talk about this. I know you wrote a book about it. I know you are helping people, and I want to give you the space to tell your story. So feel free.
Well, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, it's I did it one day at a time. I did a little bit of math on the calendar, and March 7th of this year will be the day I've not had my been without my dad for as long as I've had him. So I was 17 years and 10 months, and on March 7th it'll be about 17 years and 10 months. So almost like with him and without him about the same amount. And so over these last nearly 18 years, the thing that continued to come back to me was one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know what today is going to bring, but if you give life a chance to get better and you have that belief that it will get better, over time, it's not going to happen overnight. And there's a lot of healing and a lot of forgiveness that has to take place. And you have to be intentional about it. You have to face your adversity. And I didn't do that for a long time. For, I would say, from about 17 to 20, 25, I kind of like hid it underneath the covers. Everything externally looked good. Like if people just met me in college, they would have no idea, but it
Mm-hmm.
was the internal struggle that I was dealing with, the things that I did not handle because my ego, I didn't do counseling. So I praise you for having the humility and the awareness to seek out counseling, because I probably could have helped myself a lot sooner in life if I would have done that. Because for me, from 17 to 23 especially, I was overthinking a lot. I didn't have much self-confidence. Like I didn't believe that I mean, again, I was doing the right things, right? I got my degree, started teaching, but there's so much of me inside that I hadn't dealt with. I hadn't handled like the self-doubt, the some of the shame, some of the blame that we go through whenever we're suicide loss survivors. Like, wow, what could I have done differently? The question of why that continues to repeat over and over in your head because you don't know the answer to it. And it's almost like you're searching for things that have no ending, and it's really tough. It's really hard, and it's um so what I ended up doing was I sought forgiveness, and it was the time that I got married. I got married like about 11 years afterwards. I was 28, and I was like, I need to make a choice to heal my wounds so that way I'm the best husband I can be.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2.5 years later, almost, then we had our first son. I was like, wow, now I'm 31.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was 42 when he passed away. I need to heal my dad wounds so I can become the best dad I can be possible. Because I had some like anger and some like, why in the world would he do that? He was
Mm-hmm.
a great guy. My mom and my dad were together for over 20 years. It wasn't a dysfunctional situation. He wasn't an
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic. He wasn't somebody that you would think like, oh, that makes sense. Like he was involved in the community. He was funny. He was a great dad. I mean, he was so involved with us as kids. So it was literally like you never thought it would happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm finding is a lot of times it's the people that you least expect are the ones that maybe we should check in on more. Um, and then I had my second son, he's now almost 2. I was like, wow, I really need to make sure that I am the best dad possible you know, and it was a practice of like genuine forgiveness. Like that, I let go of the hurt that was caused. Not that he did it intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
but there were still a lot of wounds there that I had to let go of. And so it was through those practices of forgiveness that I found freedom. And I've, you don't ever really accept it, but you come to terms with it. You like, okay, it is what it is, and I can't do anything about the past, but what I can do is build a better future for myself.
That makes sense. Well, let's. I do have some questions for you to help people that are listening in that maybe they're struggling with understanding even how somebody gets to this place. So let's take a step back if you don't mind, and I'm going to ask a few questions and just whatever you feel like answering and whatever you're not comfortable with, we can just go past it. Okay? We're just going
Yeah.
to have a conversation, and I want to start with you're 17 years old at the time, living your best life with a father you adore, mom, sisters. You're living the American dream. Things are going great. And then this happens. And I want you to think back for me, like I heard you say you just couldn't see it. You didn't see it. How did you then, because I understand you went to college, you're in
Hmm.
school. How did you navigate? And I'll start with this first. Going back to school after this happened, and then having the desire to go to college and get your degree. What was your thought process in there? And that's we're going to talk about it before we talk about you getting into a relationship because I have a question about that as well. So
Okay.
you're 17. I'm assuming that you were in high school.
Right. Yeah. It was about a week before, or maybe 2 weeks before school got out my junior year. So going into my senior year. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so you were still able to, even with the hurt and everything, able to focus enough to go to school and go to college? Because a lot of kids get derailed on it. How were you able to maintain and still get yourself moving to go to finish your high school year and get to college? Were there any challenges in between there?
No, I mean, yeah, I think about the first day I went back to school before, and it was like you felt like all eyes were on you because people knew what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and as most teenagers that we never really like know somebody that faces somebody like that, or we have like, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's really like people are like, hey, I'm sorry about what happened, and but they didn't know whether to say something or not say something. And so myself, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I didn't know either. I was like, I'm just trying to create some sense of normalcy, right? And it was
Right.
through the encouragement of my mother, and she said, it's best to try that. We gotta find our new normal. And we gotta. It's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. There's gonna be a lot of things we have to work through. And so it was through the encouragement and strength of my mother and my family that I had a great support system. And I'm so thankful for that because I know not everybody has that. I know not
Right.
everybody has that. I had uncles that would check in on me. I had they would if I asked them for advice, they would be anytime I called them, they'd answer right away or call me back. And so I had to find new mentors. Quite honestly, I had to find new guides, and I asked for, and I don't know why I did this. I was like, God, like,
Mm-hmm.
can you just give me guidance? Can you just give me mentors? And man, I've been around some of the most amazingly successful people that have gone through
Mm-hmm.
similar hardships, maybe not necessarily like a suicide loss, but they've overcome some great adversities. And that's been inspiring for me to know that, well, if they can do it, then yeah, I can do it too. And vice versa. If I can do it, hopefully maybe somebody listening to this, oh, well, if Jason can do it, then so can I.
Right.
Because there's no difference between you and I. It's just the will to want to have a better life, quite honestly.
So when you got to college, did you hide that fact or were you able to talk about it to people in college? I'm just trying to lay
Yeah.
a groundwork for the people that may have gone through this and or
Mm.
that may experience it later on to see how you navigated over the years.
My when I first got to college, I went to Missouri State University, which was about 2.5 hours away from my hometown. And for me, it felt like it was a way to start over. I
Mhm.
got I got and so it was a fresh start. I didn't tell anybody about my family situation. And I just wanted to find like, man, what does this all mean? I just needed a breath of fresh air, honestly. I needed somewhere where nobody knew me and I could
Mhm.
be myself. I didn't have to like worry about who was, maybe saying something about me or what was going
Mhm.
on or you name it. And so it was more into my college years whenever I started open, but I built like trusting friendships. And I was
Mhm.
like, I could really believe I could like, like, hey, I'm dealing with, with this or
Okay.
and it was only like two or three people. It wasn't very many of them. One of them
Mhm.
ended up being my wife, who I met at the very end of like we were our last semester in school. So it was,
Okay.
divine intervention in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, and it just took, yeah, it took a while for me to really be able to feel like I could open up to,
People.
people other than my
So,
family
so
about the
let's
things that
talk
was
about
going on.
so let's
Yeah.
talk about your lovely wife. So you meet this girl at the last part of your college and you're starting to really realize you care about her. How were you able to trust or not have the thought about what is she? Have you ever
Mm.
dealt with that?
Um, it was I didn't because I got to know her as a person first. And
Mhm.
and what I always have learned, and I didn't make this notice at the time, but looking back it made sense. I've always been very observant of how people act more so than what they say.
Mhm.
Because that is like your actions never lie. Your actions
Mhm.
tell who you are so many more times than what because your words can be, you can say a bunch of stuff. You can say it in the right
Mhm.
way, but is what you're saying matching up with what you're doing? And so for me, I saw what more of what she was doing, and that
Mhm.
was what draw me to her. And like, wow, I really want to get to know her more. And then, and we were together almost 3.5 years before we got married. So we
Mhm.
really like took our time. Um, and you never really know. Obviously, like my
Right.
mom never probably thought that this would happen to my dad. Whenever they were, in their 20s and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but she had a strong foundation. She has a great family. They're very her
Mhm.
parents have been together for over 40 years. So there were so many things that like, wow, like this really makes sense in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, we've been married for over 7 years now. We have a 4 and a 1-year-old, and
Mhm.
our goal is to make sure our marriage gets better as it goes longer. Like a fine wine, right? So
Right.
what are we doing daily to make sure our marriage continues to grow and not get stagnant?
So at what time did you decide to write the book? And could you give us the title?
Yeah, my book is called "Shattered by Suicide, Renewed by Resilience: How to Move Forward After Being Left Behind." I was for a while before COVID, I got the opportunity to lead basketball camps through a company called Breakthrough Basketball, and I was going across the country to a bunch of, and I was in Eastern Ohio,
Mhm.
like Pennsylvania Ohio border, like a small town called Salem. So I'm by myself in a rental car, um, and I sometimes I ride with the radio off, like just silence is gold,
Mhm.
and just to listen and call it God, higher intelligence, you name it.
Mhm.
The word right came to my head. I'm
Mhm.
like, right. I'm a phys ed major, sports management master's, basketball
Mhm.
coach. Nothing in my description says author, right?
Mm.
It doesn't. I mean, but I go back to the quote like, God doesn't qualify the called, right? All right, what was it? Was it's God
Un-
qualifies the uncalled or something like that. I can't remember. I might
I
have
didn't
really
say he
messed that
doesn't
up.
call the qualify, he qualifies the call.
That's it. Yep. And then somebody said that to me. I think it was maybe a church or a sermon. And then so
Mhm.
all these little clues. And I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm supposed to write a book. She's like, about what? I'm
Mhm.
like, well, what happened with my dad and how I got through it. She's like, oh, are you ready for that? I'm like, I don't think so. But I mean, when will you ever be ready? If you wait to be
True.
ready, you're going to keep waiting for the rest of your life. And so I did the due diligence of talking to my family first too. And I said, hey, I feel like I'm supposed to write this from my perspective.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention names or anything like that. This is solely my story. Um, and I got their blessing. And I told them, like, whether or not, you agree or don't agree, like, again, I'm going to protect our names
Mm-hmm.
and leave everybody's names out of this. But like, I think my story can really help some people. And
Right.
if and my goal of writing, if it helped one person
Mhm.
understand to be a better father, understand that their mental fitness is important, mental wellness is important, then it was worth it. And it ended up being the most healing process for me as well, because writing it out, getting all of the suppressed emotions that I carried for 15 plus years, just, I mean, there was like tears on the keyboard, you name it, but
Mm-hmm.
like the tension that was lifted, it felt like somebody like took a house off my shoulders. It was like the most freeing, healing thing. So now I'm an avid journaler. I believe in journaling just to get what's out of your head onto
Yes, I
paper.
do too. I believe in
So
journaling. I think it's a very important way to release emotions that would normally stay inside your body and cause all kind of havoc. Jason, now that you've written this book, do you also go out and talk to people about suicide prevention?
it hasn't. I have, like, mostly on podcasts. Yeah, I've been on,
Okay.
just like this. It's kind of, especially with COVID, and I had this past summer, like about a year ago, I gave my first talk. I actually went to my hometown. And it was a group that invited me to come and speak. And I had 5 other ones lined up last summer. They
Mm-hmm.
got, you know, canceled because of COVID. No big deal. So he's like, well, what's the
Right.
pivot here? So I just started doing a bunch of podcasts, and that's what, for me, I was able to be home with my family. I could still
Mm-hmm.
share the same message. People could listen to whatever they wanted to.
Right.
So that's kind of what I've turned, my speaking into, is doing things like this, because I have young kids. And for
Right.
myself, like, being a dad, like, it doesn't mean anything if I travel around the world and speak if they're not with me.
That makes sense.
So now I get the best of both worlds. I can be home with them, spend time with people, great people like yourself, for 20, 30 minutes, and I open the door and I'm right there again with them. You know,
Absolutely. So,
um,
what would you say was your greatest revelation after you wrote the book about all that have you've been through?
self-care is essential. Like, you got to, and self-care is not selfish. Like, every morning I meditate, I pray, I exercise, yoga, you name it, and I learn. So taking, like, we undervalue taking care of our mind,
Mm-hmm.
but the mind controls the body. And so when we take care of our mind, everything else falls into place. You take care of your spirit, you take care of your soul, like you're a solutionist, like,
Mm-hmm.
you take care of those two pieces, everything else comes into play. Like, there's a quote from an old, like, success book called The Science of Being Great. And in there, the author, Wallace says, I I allow my body to be controlled by my mind. I
Mm-hmm.
allow my mind to be governed by my soul. I allow my soul to be guided by the grace of God. And I just found that
Mm-hmm.
so, like, there's just such a, step by step process that if you follow these things, you allow your body to be controlled by your mind to be controlled by your soul to be guided by God. You're going to be in a flow of life that you probably never felt before. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to go through some challenges, but now what if these challenges are, like, making you better to help you live more on purpose? What if these challenges are what you're supposed to go through to help somebody else? So that's kind of how I've made sense of it all with losing my dad to suicide. It was like, well, now that I've healed myself, what's my message? What's my story now?
That's your message. What's your story? Well, that will lead me to tell me about the hashtag Act to Impact.
hmm if you break down the last 3 letters of impact, it's ACT, it's act. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's in to me, it came back to intention. Like, what are we doing? Because you can be busy doing a bunch of things. You
I
know,
feel that.
you can be, I mean, you name it. Busyness does not always mean productivity. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, am I intentional And I ask and some days I'm not, I admit it. Like some days I'm like, wow, I was really distracted today. I was not the best dad today. I could have been a better husband. I could have been a better teacher, entrepreneur, you name it. But then I act to impact. Oh, yeah, okay. Today I can control right now. That's all I
Mhm.
can control. I can control yesterday. I can learn from it. So act to impact to me means like, what positive influence are you giving on the person in front of you, the masses, you name it, that is going to maybe make their lives better?
So I know you work with young athletes. Do you want to tell me about that also?
Yeah. Me and a good friend of mine started a company called 40 Athletes, and you may not be aware of this, or you might be, but um, we're losing about 6,200 people a year from ages 15 to 24 to suicide.
Hmm.
160,000 kids. This is before COVID. 160,000 kids are staying at home from school from scared of being bullied.
Hmm.
Almost 60% of kids are being cyberbullied. And that probably is maybe even up too. Again, these are all numbers before the numbers probably really haven't came out from like situations with COVID.
Right.
And so for us, it's like I've always loved sports as a kid. That's always been like the thing that if you could do something that for 5 hours that felt like 5 minutes, it was playing sports for me. And so I was like, what if we build something that would help kids understand who they are, give them the skills and strategies, the essential life skills, to become a confident, empowered, and self-motivated person, and uses and equip the coaches with these skill sets where all they would have to do is maybe share their experiences with some of these life skills. What would that look like? And
Yeah.
so that's where we came up with 40 athletes. Like the four dimensional is kind of what 40 stands for. It's the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the environmental. And if you take a holistic approach to sports, you have a well balanced person. And so that's what we're trying to. Our mission, our goal is to transform 100 million athletes by 2030 across the world.
Well, Jason, I believe you would do that. I am so thankful that you took the time to come talk to me today, and I wish you great success with the young athletes. I thank God that you found peace and that you were able to write a book that is going to impact so many people. If you had a thought that you'd like to leave with people before we go today, what would that be?
Just be you. Like just be your authentic self. Like everybody else is taken, and every day in every way, just choose to get a little bit better. Just find a way to get a little bit better, because inches turn into feet, feet turns into yards, and then this is a football analogy. Yards
Okay.
turns into first downs,
Hmm.
first downs turn into touchdowns. So inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. So just take the little steps, and little steps multiply, and they get bigger and bigger. So yeah.
That's good. Jason, how will someone contact you?
Yeah, you can. Our website is 40athletes.com. We have a YouTube channel too. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a lot of great interviews there. I'm on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
um, and my Instagram is jholzer. Those are probably the best routes that you can find me on.
I'll make sure we put all that in the details when we put this video out. Well, if you'll stand by while I make my announcement for veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to thank a veteran. You'll look above my head, you'll see the website, nevcc.org/projects. That's where you can go and look at the Basket Brigade. Every month, there is an opportunity for you to give a veteran a thank you. It's January, so it's all about a fresh start. You leave a message telling the veteran how they can make a fresh start or how you have made a fresh start so you can encourage them. And if you don't have something for January, feel free to make your comments in one of the other months. There are 12 months with 12 different topics, and each month is designed for you to leave a message to let a veteran know they are appreciated. Take the time to thank a veteran. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Mr. Jason Holzer, for being here and sharing his story of tragedy to triumph. And Jason, once again, may God bless you and your family. And I'd like to remind everyone the choices you make today will be the reality you live tomorrow. Choose wisely. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Brenda. It's been great.
Yes, it has. Mhm.